We've been talking about the most important factors in our lives, factors that influence us from the time of our birth until the time we die. And those factors, as we grow older, become more and more important, and those factors are the ones that give us purpose and the ones that give us passion, ones that give us life. My friend here, Steve Wilson, and I'm Galen Daly. And we've been talking about these things that give us passion and purpose. And
the important thing, while I may interrupt with you here, is we got to answer certain questions, each and every one of us. And I think it boils down to, when you're talking about what would hold us back from purpose, would it be stress? Would it be fatigue? All of those things come into play. And I believe, Galen, one of the most important ones that we need to ask is the emotional stress. Where are we with mental fatigue? And how can we intervene and make that just absolutely elevate in terms of performance?
Generally, stress is something that's going to drive you away from performance. Because if it's any kind of a stress that is heavy on your head, in your brain, that's going to do away with performance. It's going to be detrimental. And so what you want to do is you got to figure out what is causing this fatigue, what is causing this stress, and you've got to figure out how to get a handle on it. And that has to do with your thinking. And so you can sit down and try to analyze what's going on in your life. And if you're able to sit down and clear your head, that's hugely beneficial. And we'll get into ways of doing that. But another thing that's really important for me is to consider, what is your purpose? Are you being useful? Are you fulfilling your purpose? And that has a lot to do with whether or not you're being stressed. If you're not fulfilling your purpose, you're going to feel stressed, and you're going to wonder why, because you have no purpose.
Well, Galen, as we sit here and chat, we're both of us, did you know we're in our late 70s?
Yes, right.
Okay. And all at once, here we are reaching out to people and just chatting with you. You want to reach back and maybe start another life, another purpose in life, to reach out to people to say such things as, you don't need to get where I am.
Right, late 70s.
And feel poor and fatigue. Mm-hmm. And how are we finding in your life, you and I have been talking about eating correctly and taking the supplements that we've been building. Maybe you ought to address that a little bit in terms of what it's done for you.
Let's go back just a step. The thing that matters most to me is being able to help people. I've discovered that in my life, it's really important that I feel good about helping people. So I'm a retired pastor, but that doesn't have anything to do with it. What most matters is my being able to help people, and I can help people in a bunch of different ways. But usually it amounts to me sitting down with somebody and just listening to them. Listen to them as they talk about what's wrong with their kids, or what's wrong with their own life, what's wrong with their own body. And to that, I need energy. I need energy to be able to absorb what they're telling me, process it, and then feed back to them some advice that God gives me. Well, how do I get that energy? And I get that energy through a product that Steve has developed. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But that energy comes by way of a chemical, a product that he's developed that feeds my body. And at my age in life, 79, my body's beginning to break down like some of yours, and so we need to replace those chemicals, those enzymes and all that my body's no longer producing. We need to replace those with natural elements that Steve's developed. And so you may be looking at yourself wondering, why am I feeling poorly? Why am I not able to get things done? Well, it may be that you're simply lacking some chemicals, lacking some elements. And one of Steve's product called Be Pure is great for providing energy.
That's important. And while you're on it, why don't you discuss this thing called sleep? How important does sleep come to you?
Sleep is mandatory. As we age, we need more and more sleep. I'm not sure if that's chemically sound, or physiologically sound. But I go to bed about 9 o'clock at night. I get up once to go to the bathroom, typically about 2 or 3, and then I'll sleep again until 7 or 7:30. And if I don't get that sleep, I will be miserable the following day. And so I can no longer handle telephone calls in the middle of the night asking me to come to the hospital to be with somebody who's having a hard time. I just can't do that. That's got to be for the younger guys. And so I'm not sure where you are, but in terms of me, I need to have my 8 or 10 hours of sleep, and it's got to be high quality sleep. That is to say, it can't be interrupted. It's just got to be high quality sleep, and Steve has a product that deals with that as well.
And that's interesting because here we sit trying to figure out how to clean the brain out. And you know, from a biblical viewpoint, which is really interesting to me, the provisions were made that if we were simply obedient and ate the way we were designed to eat, all of the things that we need to clean from the brain through the body are presented to us in this dietary suggestion. It's not a law because we live in self-will. So if we made that exchange, the performance, we sleep better, we perform better, all of these things, and we ward off disease, which is interesting.
It goes back to Genesis 1, verse 29. So go to your Bible and look it up. You may have to dust off your Bible. Genesis is the first book in the Bible. Go to Genesis chapter 1 and go down to verse 29. I don't remember it because of my memory, but basically it says God has told Adam and Eve and everybody hereafter that your food is to be seeds and any plant bearing fruit. So go to your Bible and look it up for yourself. And this is what he's telling us to eat. So nowhere does he say that your food is to be a Big Mac or a Domino's pizza or a big thick steak. He says your food is to be seeds, all kind of seeds, and fruit, all kind of fruit. This is what we're supposed to eat. So when we eat this diet that's made up of all of these other things that we've been eating for years, it's going to have a harmful effect on us. My dad died at age 57, and my uncle even younger than that, because of the way that we were living back then. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. Genesis, my brain is failing me. Anyway, there's another verse that I can quote once I get it up to speed. But back to you.
Well, I think that when people look at the most incredible word to me is in the beginning God created. Our whole life works from that one position. He created us, and then he went on to say, it wasn't good, it was really good.
Very good.
So if that's the case, and then in that very same chapter, he says, this is the way I want you to feed it. And we say, I will stubbornly choose not to do that. Even though I know it's right, I'm going to do it my way. And the consequences from that are just irredeemable in terms of how they function with us. But there is rebellion in that. And that's what you and I are talking about, is subjecting ourselves to the humbleness, and then the performance just goes through the ceiling if we simply are obedient.
And so it comes down to a choice. The choice is ours. God gives us this thing called free will. So he gave Adam and Eve their free will, and Eve listened to Satan when he was in the garden and ate the forbidden fruit and talked Adam into eating the same thing. And all of a sudden sin came into their lives and into our lives as well. But we have the choice of exercising free will or not. We can obey what God tells us, Genesis 1 verse, and we can live the way he wants us to, or we can eat the way that we want to and suffer the consequences thereof. So if you're having problems with your health, go back and listen to what God says, and maybe start choosing to live the way that He commands us to, or suggests us to, and try to clean up your health by doing life God's way. So we have a choice. We can either live the way we have been all these years and suffer the consequences with ulcers and gallstones and hypertension and all these things, or we can try to live God's way and live much happier, much more healthy lives.
So, to be intelligently disciplined, coming from Proverbs. So, Galen, we've reached another endpoint. It is so good to do this with you, a couple of old duffers like us. Let's do it next week, same time.
We can do it.
Thank you very much.
Blessings.